wanted to make the place nice. On a Friday afternoon, I used to go to King Pie and buy 48 pies, because if you could buy the pies for R3 each, but if you bought a dozen, you could get a dozen. I think they were R2 each, but if you bought a dozen, they were R20. So I would go and buy a few packets of these pies and share them out, you know. So it was a bit of camaraderie. And then after 1996, I got shot on duty. I was hit 3 times. I was quite badly injured. So that injuries resulted in hospitalization, and I had to have part of my spine reconstructed. And for a while after that, I wasn't engaged in physical policing, you know, so you couldn't afford, for example, to get involved where you arrest a suspect and he puts up a fight. So I then transferred to what was then called John Vorster Square, and I worked in the fraud unit there. And while I was working at John Vorster Square, I became unhappy with seeing this statue of John Vorster sitting in the entranceway every time you enter there. So in 1997, I brought a petition to the provincial government in Gauteng. At the time, Jessie Duarte, God rest her soul, she was the provincial MEC for safety and security. And I brought the petition to her to change the name of John Vorster Square to Johannesburg Central Police Station. And anybody going to Johannesburg Central Police Station today, at the entranceway, you'll see there's a brass plaque where in September 1997, the name of the station was changed. And my name is on that brass plaque as having been the chairman of the Community Policing Forum as well. So by this stage, I'd also been working at the Police Training Center, where I'd been requested to provide lectures. So I lectured in criminal law A and B, I lectured in police administration, and I lectured in crime investigation and the preparation of sworn statements. And I did that for a number of years. And I think it's mentioned there in paragraph 16 that in 1997, one of our students was Cyril Ramaphosa, who's today the president of South Africa, but then he wasn't even a politician, he was a businessman. And he sat in on the training course that I was running. And we subsequently issued, because he was a very good student. In fact, I remember one of the modules I had to train the student police officials on was the Constitution. Now, the Constitution had only been issued in 1996, and now we're in 1997. And it was very important that these police officials should understand.
Sorry, just so that we can just plate the photograph. If we could get some help to plate Annexure A54 of the Annexure bundle. Who was doing it? I don't know, it looks like there isn't anyone to assist us. But it's at page 54 of the Annexure bundle, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members.
Chair, the evidence leader wants a thing to be flighted there. Can we please see that?
Yes, it's at A54 and paragraph 16 of the affidavit. So while we waiting there, may we proceed, Honorable Chair? May we can 54, A54. So if I may, in the meantime, continue, Honorable Chair. It's related to that. Can I ask you to look at A53, South African Reserve Police Service, House Reserve Training Center. It's dated 26 June 1997. Dear Sir, Detective Sergeant Paul Robert O'Sullivan, the force numbers there. The above name has been lecturing at this establishment and external courses since 1993. Currently lectures in the following subjects. And you've mentioned this: the Constitution and Police Ethics, Police Administration and Procedures, Crime Investigation and Scenes of Crime, the Criminal Procedures Act, Criminal Law, A and B, statement taking. So is it in the course of doing that you also trained, amongst others, our president?
That's right, Chairman. During the period from 93 till about 2000, I trained 1,500 police reservists in Johannesburg. And at one stage, which was in 1997, the course that we ran, there would be about between 30 and 40 students on each course. And the courses would normally last about 3 months. And that would entail, I was only responsible for the lecturing side of it, which would entail three sessions in the evenings and one session on a Saturday. So I had to train these various police reservists. And one day I was quite surprised to find that one of the students sitting there was Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, I'd already met Cyril Ramaphosa previously because I'd met him at Wandi's place in Soweto. So I knew him already, and now he's suddenly a reservist or a reservist in training. And it was quite funny, really, because I remember one day I got, when you lecture, you don't just give a lecture and then leave it there. You give a lecture and then you have to ask questions. You have to get interaction with the students. And when I lectured these students, I would say, has anybody got any questions about this? Now, one of the areas we lectured on, as is mentioned here, is the Constitution and police ethics. And the Constitution was new at that time. And my area of interest, insofar as these students was concerned, was the Bill of Rights, because I wanted to make sure that we wouldn't be training police reservists who wouldn't understand the rights of citizens.
What training did you yourself receive in the Constitution or in relation to the Constitution and lecturing on the Constitution and ethics?
So I'd been to the police training center in Paarl. It's actually not far from here, where I did detective training and training of that nature. And then when the Constitution came out, I sat down, I can't remember the guy's name now, but I sat down with a constitutional lawyer in Johannesburg because I wanted to understand the Constitution. And the reason I wanted to understand it is because I wanted to make sure that the new police officials we were training would understand that the citizens of the country had rights that they previously didn't have. And the sort of things that bothered me as a policeman would be when I saw a person being arrested, that they used to assault them. And that worried me. It wasn't something I liked to see. And in one case, I can remember in 1994, I arrested an individual who had murdered a woman. And while he was in my custody, two police officials wanted to assault him. So I had to actually tell them that if they assault my prisoner, I'm going to arrest them. And that was problematic. But I decided to take a strong approach to that. So when I trained the reservists, I made sure that those reservists understood that if they breached the constitutional rights of any suspect, they themselves could face criminal prosecution. So I got myself up to speed on that. But the point I was making was when I lecture, I then get feedback from the students to make sure they understand what I'm saying. So I would give them an example and I would say, if so-and-so happened, would that be correct?